Alright, welcome back to our Monopoly scenario within QuickBooks. Today we're going to learn how to do some of the basic billing and invoicing that every business is going to do, as well as how we record deposits and write checks. These are probably the four main things that businesses do on a regular basis. I mean, you get supplies and have to pay for them, so you get a bill. You have customers that buy stuff, so you have to bill them. When you get money, you record the deposit. When you've got some sort of expense, you might just write a check for it. If you don't get a bill for it, you just write a check. And for our sake, writing a check is the same as handing over cash to somebody else in the game. So let's just start with the billing those that landed on our space. So if somebody landed on your space and is going to owe you money for landing on your property, you're going to want to send them a bill. The first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we're doing a service invoice, because that's really what we're going to be charging for, a service. And then we choose which customer we're going to bill. And if you put in any of the name or address, that stuff would show up right here under the bill too. You probably didn't put that in, or didn't put much of that. And what we're charging them for, the item then, is going to be rent. Now I've already added this as an item. It's a service that I provide. If you didn't add that yet, you'd click Add New, and you would go through and fill this out. You'd say it's a service that you're going to charge them for. The name is rent. We wouldn't fill in a rate. We could fill in a rate if we wanted to, if we always charge the exact same rent, but we don't always charge the exact same rent. Theoretically, if I were going to do this for, I don't know, a hotel, I'd have a whole bunch of different items in here. I'd add a whole bunch of different item names. Like I'd have weekend rate 1 queen bedroom, weekend rate 2 queen beds, weekday rate 1 queen bed, weekday rate room with 2 queen beds, etc. So I could have a whole bunch of items that would automatically give the proper rate, and I might even have discount rates for all kinds of stuff. But for our sake, we'll keep it simple. The only item we're selling is rent. We aren't going to put the rate in, but we would have to give it an account, and since this is a sale, we put it under sales income or sales. So make sure you've got that in there. Click OK. I'm going to click cancel because I've already entered this before. And then you say, yep, I'm going to charge you for rent. I'm going to charge you an amount. So I don't know, if rent was $12 maybe for landing on St. Charles, I might give it a description even, say, St. Charles. I can't spell right now. And I can put on all this invoice all the times TVP lands on all the different properties. So maybe he later lands on, I don't know, I can say I own Boardwalk. And that would be $50 rent. And that's going to create a bill for him that I could then print off or email and send out to him, and he would know how much he owes me. So I'm going to save that. For our sake, you can click continue here, that's fine. For our sake, this is as far as we would go. The next time we play and he actually pays me back, then I'm going to receive a payment. But we'll get to the received payments in a little bit. The converse is when I land on somebody else's property. Then I'm going to get a bill from them later. Now I could wait until they send me an invoice, or I can enter it right away. So since we've recorded a whole bunch of bills, I'm going to enter a bill. And I'd say, who's the vendor? Well, if I landed on TVP's property, it'd be TVP. The account, well, this would be a rental expense. So I'm going to put it under rent expense. And maybe my amount, I don't know, I land on something, Marvin Gardens, and maybe it's $30. I don't even know what it is, but Marvin Gardens. And then maybe I also land, let's put another rent expense. I also landed on a Reading Railroad. Oops, that's not what I wanted, and that was $25. So Reading Railroad, Reading Railroad, there we go. I really don't need to fill in the customer job or billable. That's stuff we could talk about later, but for our sake, that's all I need is a memo, the amount, and the rental expense. So I'm going to click Save and New, and then I could enter it for some other player if I landed on some of their properties. I don't need to, so I'm actually going to close that. And I've got a bill in there, so I've got a couple bills. And you can see over here now my account balances. It creates an accounts payable and accounts receivable accounts for me. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to input the data in is every time you pass go, or anytime you receive some sort of other income, when somebody handed you cash. Maybe they landed on community chest and they had to pay you $50 or something like that. So anyway, we're going to deposit to our cash. The from account is going to be well, it could be miscellaneous income, it could be owner's equity, or your equity account, I guess we would call it. So my equity, if I got my memo, I'm going to say this is when I pass go. The amount is going to be 200. So equity is the account that's really getting credited. Although we aren't doing the debits and credit, you aren't going to see that. It's kind of happening behind scenes. But equity, if I had a miscellaneous income, maybe somebody owed me $50 because they had a community chest. So I'd say community chest TVP, and that was $50. And so I can record these deposits. Deposit subtotal is $250. I'm going to click Save and Close, and you'll see my cash account actually went up $250. So that worked out well. In the case that I buy a property, or I'm gonna, well, let's do that one first. If I'm gonna land and I'm gonna buy a property, so I'm gonna pay the bank. You may not have bank yet. So if you type in bank, it's going to kick you to this screen. If you want to quickly add them, I just quickly say other and click OK, and you should be able to pay to the order of the bank. I've actually already done this, but it's an other account. And so I'm going to buy $200. My memo, this is for, I don't know, B&O Railroad. And the account really goes to the properties account because I bought a property. So it's going to debit my cash account. It's going to credit my cash account, and it's going to debit my properties account for me. I'm just writing a check. Save and close. And if I were to look at my, go back to my accountant, that's that accountant tab. If I were to look at my balance sheet, you'd see, yep, I have $200 in properties right now because I bought a property. Theoretically, you'd have a lot more than that in there right now because you would add some other properties that you have bought. If you never did add those properties, like at the beginning, you might want to make a general journal entry just to say, okay, my properties account, when I started playing this second round, I had, I don't know, $1,200 worth of properties, and so the credit was to my equity account. So that looks good. That makes sure I'm going to click Save and Close. So anyway, if you're ever curious, you can go look at that balance sheet. But now that's got my two entries that I originally had. Alright, so we've really looked at writing checks for buying properties, but we can also look at buying checks. Maybe I was going to pay to Troy for, oops, I'm not going to pay my bill right now. But maybe I'm going to pay him for, I landed on a community chest thing and I had to pay him $50. So I'd say community chest, I'll just do CC. And the account that it's really coming from is a miscellaneous expense. Or maybe I'd be paying, another thing could be I could be paying my income tax. I think that's $75, whatever it is. It's a miscellaneous expense. $75 will save and close. And so that'd be me paying that $75. I could also write a check, maybe if we made a trade for some properties and I actually gave him some cash. You know, I gave Troy some cash as we traded for properties. I gave him, I don't know, I gave him $50, and he gave me, let's say he gave me properties, I don't know, let's see, he could have given me property worth $300, and I gave him a property that was, so this would be negative to my account. I gave him a property that was worth $250 or $270. We'll do $275. Each time I'm putting this in, you'll notice it fills in the next line how much is getting credited to where, and this other $25 then is really a trade expense. So I'm going to call that a miscellaneous expense. We'll call it a trade expense. So trade expense was only $25, but I did have to give him $50, but I got a more valuable property out of the deal. And so what you'll see is that my property's value, or my overall property's account, oops, I should have done save and close, went up by a little bit. So let's go over to my balance sheet, and my properties went up by $25. Alright, last thing then is when we start playing again and you actually pay your bills to those that you owe and you receive payments, that is really simple. So when you pay a bill, you can say, oh, there's a bill, I want to pay that one. Method is going to be a check, so it's going to come out of my cash account, pay selected bills, and if I was doing this for my business, I'd click print checks and then I'd mail them out when I'm done. Receiving payments, when somebody pays you for the rent they owe you, first you're going to choose who you're receiving it from. Oops, click the right person there, and you'll see, oh, there's that invoice that I created earlier. I'm going to check that. I'm going to go, yep, on that, and it's going to apply, you know, $62. I'm going to say perfect, save and close, and that's actually going to create an account called, here's my balance sheet, undeposited funds. So I still need to deposit those funds. You know, if somebody wrote me a check, I would actually need to take it to the bank. So I'm going to record a deposit, and you'll notice it pops up right here, my undeposited funds. Yep, let's deposit those. Save and close. And just like that, we've taken care of our books. It's taken care of all the general journal entries that we need to take care of. And so that's the basics of you know, everything we've done in Monopoly. I think the one thing I left off was if you were on the receiving end, if you were in Troy's case where you received a check in addition to a trade, you might do a record a deposit and do the same sort of thing that we did with writing a check. But that's really the basics of it. We have bills, we have invoices where we bill our customers, we record deposits, and we write checks when we have expenses. The very last thing then is if our cash account is not exactly right, maybe we didn't enter it right at the start or something got off somewhere. If right now my cash account should have $14.32, but maybe I only have $14.08 in cash, so I'm going to say my ending balance is $14.08. I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to reconcile it, say, yep, I've received all these things were on my bank statement theoretically. I'm going to click reconcile now, and because I have something off, I could return and reconcile it. I could leave the reconcile, or I can enter an adjustment. And in our case, we're probably just going to enter an adjustment, and it will create this general journal entry for us. We'll display that. And you'll see our reconciliation statement. Cleared our transactions, our payments, our deposits. Here's the detail, And what am I looking for? Where is that? I'm missing it. There it is, my general journal entry. The $24 that I was off, it created a general journal entry for me to fix that, and it debited it to the reconciliation discrepancy account. So that's all we have to do. It takes care of all of the hard work for us. All we do is enter bills, create invoices, record deposits, write checks, and reconcile. And while it took us a little bit to set this up, the reality is that now QuickBooks is doing most of the hard labor for us, all that journaling stuff that you may not have enjoyed doing in Excel so much.